Welcome to EXPLORE-OVERLAND, and here we're just crossing the mighty Goulburn River, just south of the Eildon Dam and just south of Thornton. As many people would have driven into the high country up here through Thornton, and here we have the classic Mount Street, and just over there where the vehicles are parked up there is the Thornton store, and they've got the classic Thornton spring rolls there for anyone that's ever called in. And these are just a few images of where the road parallels the floodplains of the Goulburn River up in the northern section. And we're going to turn off just before Eildon and we're going to head out towards Big River. And this is going to be an epic trip. What we're going to do here is we're going to cut across country, basically from Big River. We're just going to pick a few of the harder tracks to get ourselves across to Butcher Country, and then down through Caledonia, up Dingo Hill and into Lacola, and then we're going to cut back, heading up. We're going to do Barkley River Jeep Track, and then Silver Mine, and then head down to Mitchell's, come up through Mitchell's and head back out through Jamison. So it's a huge trip, and it takes in some of the best scenery in the high country, which will be split up into multiple videos over the next month. There's some really good off-roading in this series and really good scenery. Now, I've just forgotten the barbecue sauce for the toasted sandwiches in the morning, so just going back into Eildon at the moment. Luckily I remembered, and we're going to grab some from the store there before we head out the back way. I'm going to head across through the Rubicon to Big River and then head along Big River. So I want to go up, there's a track in black there heading up to the top of Mount Terrible that I want to do on the way through. And it's absolutely beautiful here at Eildon today. We're about a week into summer. All the tracks are open. You'll see now we're coming across the pondage just down below the dam wall. It's a popular fishing spot here for all the anglers. Beautiful spot though. And well worth the drive back in for the barbecue sauce. The last chance, the reason I come back into Eildon for the sauce is it'll be the last chance for a couple of days to grab it. So today I really wanted to check out another way over Mount Terrible, and there's another track there. I think it's either red or black. But I want to head over that way up to the Jamison-Lacola Road, and I'll head across the Goulburn River and up Holy Land's track as well. Sometimes it's good to slip in the back way just for a bit of a change, and this is a really good scenic route out through here. Thornton Road, and we're going to head up through the Rubicon, Big River, and that'll get us onto, following the Big River Road. I'll turn off at the Big River Road, which is about halfway along towards Jamison, and that'll take us up to this track I want to slip up to have a look at. Absolutely gorgeous day in the Goulburn Valley today. Holy Lands used to be a crazy steep track. I'm sure it's steep now, but the first time I come down it about maybe 25 years ago, they hadn't had any track maintenance, I reckon, since the 1970s or something, because man, it was wild. There was ruts that at that time they had a short wheelbase Defender, which I built from scratch because you couldn't buy them in Australia at that time. And that was getting lost in some of the water erosion on the track. Like, it was really, really gnarly stuff. But I've got a funny feeling that it's been maintained and upgraded when Lazarini's got done last year, or earlier this year. Those familiar with this drive up through here and the Rubicon, there's some really steep tracks off and back down into Eildon as well. And I'll come up here one day over summer and I'll go through and I'll do all of these steep tracks that head down to the lake from the Rubicon side, Big River side. And those driving along, all those cicadas sound awesome. Big chorus they got going. That is really the sound of summer, that's for sure, in Australia. And this is the Big River Bridge just over the back there. It's just, you can see it's just an absolutely gorgeous day. You can see all the stones in the river. This is a really nice spot. I got some video footage on the way back through of flying up the river with the drone. Just a bit of a check over the car here. I thought a tyre deflating. Okay, we're on Big River Road and we're heading for Donald's Track. The seasonal closure's over and it'll be open today. I'm just hoping at this stage it's not one of the tracks that's been upgraded and we get a bit of a testing drive up there today. But either way, I'm going to do some filming off there and it'll be a good indication of what people are in for if they want to slip up the back way, rather than head over the Big River Road all the way to Jamison. Okay, well we're at Donald's Track, and as you can see it's open. It looks like they've just dozed the gates off it when they've redone it, and unfortunately it's been redone, so it's not going to be wild, it'll be probably mild. So I've just let the tyres down again, and I was just going to take you through. These are the Bridgestone takeoff tyres. They're an all-terrain tyre, the Jeweler AT. They come off the 76 series old Land Cruiser Troopies. They have them on them new. The other thing I'd say about I've been using them off-road and they're great. They're great off-road for the simple fact is there's no steel in the sidewall. And like all those really great off-road tyres like Centipedes, I used to run Simic Centipedes on all my vehicles probably 20-25 years ago, and the Centipede was a rag tyre, a lot better tyre off-road than the old Treps, because they had no steel in them, but they couldn't be road registered for that fact. But because they were a rag tyre, they would just literally wrap around the rocks and everything, and they were incredible off-road, and they had all the tread on the side. Because of it, you didn't really get snagged and do sidewalls. Whereas the old Treps, they've got to have steel in them, they're road registered sort of tyre. But the Centipedes, being a rag tyre, this thing's really good. These tyres are really good. They wrap around everything and they're great drive off-road. The number one problem is though, because there's no steel in that sidewall, big risk of doing side damage, and they're not something that I'd run in the outback or anything like that. They're right here with a spare tyre and helps just around the corner. But they're not a serious, around Australia off-road four-wheel drive tyre. As much as they're great off-road, the be just too big a risk of doing a sidewall in without a bale of steel. And so I've got them down to 20 today, and they'll be fine. I don't expect any trouble with them whatsoever. And that should get us wherever we want to go over this next couple of days on this trip. That being said, let's head up Donald's track. Just as a side note, you couldn't see it there where the car was parked up, where I aired down, but the gates were sitting behind where the car was out in the bush. It looks like the dozer had just run straight over the top of them as they took them off the start of the track. Everyone's probably had a look at Donald's track on the map. Anyone that's been looking or thinking about coming over to this region and heading up to Mount Terrible, this is one of the ways up, and on all the maps it says how steep it is. This would be very, very wild in spots if it was badly eroded and there was no track maintenance, because there is some really steep bits. It jumps up pretty well straight away from the start, and then it's got a few steps in it, and then it's got some real steep stuff in it. Yeah, steep enough that you're starting to get on the limit of a standard four-wheel drive on all terrains with no diff locks. As if you break any sort of traction, getting restarted would be very hard without diff locks, especially on an overweight heavy car as well. And again, it's not that you can't, but you're just getting to that stage where it's starting to get a little bit silly and mistakes happen. Here's where it starts to jump up pretty well straight away. It's very hard to pick it up on the camera on the car because you just can't see how steep it is. This is a nice bit of a steep climb here. On this trip and over all of these tracks, like these really gnarly tracks that you've seen in the intro there, I've gone to a lot of effort and crashed the drone countless times to try and capture, like never before, driving some of these steep tracks with getting the drone out in front and being able to film it with the level of steepness. That's not bad there. You can sort of get a rough idea. That feels really steep in the car, I can tell you. So over this trip, a lot of effort has gone into capturing all this, and you'll see coming up, once I get the drone out here, that you can see how steep, start to get a good idea how steep some of these tracks are, especially when I get over to the real gnarly tracks. We're in second gear, low range here, just cruising up in the disco. You can just hear the turbo just easily working. It's just cruising on up. But you later on through these videos and through these tracks, There's a lot of first gear low range and even struggling to pull the vehicle up on some of these steep downhills in first gear low range. Okay, now for some tricky flying and trying to capture how this drops away on the downhill. This really is a big climb up out of the valley from Big River. Park's done a lot of track maintenance over here, both to the west and the east of Mount Terrible. All the tracks really were upgraded. One of the exceptions would be Pauletti's. It didn't look like it had had any sort of maintenance on it for a few years, but it's not a crazy steep track anyway. That Pauletti's takes you down into the Goulburn Valley, just south of Kevington. This is one of a few steps in the track on the way up, and you can see it's following the ridge line. It's dropping off both sides there. And Donald's track starts on the Big River Road, and pretty much directly north of Enoch's Point, which is the old Enoch's Point mine in the Upper Goulburn area. I think it's around the 1860s the mine was established, but there's a few buildings and all that sort of stuff down there on the river as well. For those people that are into all the old gold mining history, this place really is a gold mine, using the pun, because everywhere around about useful, both sides of it, there's just a multitude of gold mining history. These Bridgestone ATs really were exceptional on this trip. When you see the videos that are coming in this series and some of the tracks and some of the things that they done, it really is quite incredible. You can just see here, looking back down the hill, how steep that is from above. On this whole trip, over all of these tracks, there's only one time that I know for sure I spun a wheel, and I nearly come to a standstill because it was so vertically steep going up. Got a bit of dust out on the rocks, and the wheel spun and nearly come to an instant stop because of how steep it was in first gear low range. Other than that, these tyres climbed everything without spinning a wheel. No big traps, no sidewall tread, and they just walked it. One of the things to watch out for in the series is I only let these down to 20 psi, as I mentioned just before, but just have a look when I get onto rock sections, when we're climbing or descending. Just have a look how well they wrap around the terrain because they've got no steel in the sidewall. And the other feature of these tyres, I think I mentioned it in another video not related to this, is that they've got a real sticky compound. So on the road, mate, they handle so well, it is not funny. And as I mentioned before, they were pretty well developed for the old Toyota 70 series, because they're horrendous on the road and the wet and all that. Well, they were on the road and the wet and that. And this is the sort of tyres that they ended up fitting on them. And they'd even make the old 70 series grip going through the corners. They're a really, really good tyre, road bias tyre. I was having a few drone issues here. It was having LiDAR issues. It was because the terrain was starting to get very enclosed. It was having trouble picking things up, and there was a few crashes going on, and me trying to steer it out, and yeah. It was a bit of a pain, but it's well worth the look when you're looking back at the vehicle. It gives you a really good idea of what the track's actually like. Here's probably a reasonable bit if you can concentrate on looking back down the track, and at the sides of your peripheral, you can see how steep that climb is coming up out of there. It really is quite steep. It's a lot harder to pick up the steepness when you're following the car. But on this track here, where in these steep sections here, you can even pick it up following the car. This switchback in the track here is a good indication that it's starting to get quite steep on the side of the hill. It's usually the first sign that you're in a steep section. Back when we started off-roading out here in the high country over 25 years ago, I'd sit there and study the maps for the whole week before going out, just checking everything out and looking at the contour lines to see how close they were together to find the steepest stuff to go out and attack. It's just not the same following it on the app. Although the app is handy to have, that's for sure. When it comes to where all the signs are taken off, and again, over this trip, there's just signs missing everywhere, everyone's souvenired them. It's really good to double check everything. This is a good spot here where it comes up off the side. It's got a steep drop off to the side here, but it just clears out and you can just see right back down towards Big River. It starts to peter out a bit here now towards the top. We're getting very close, the seasonal gate. There's just one more steep climb coming up and we'll be at the top. stay tuned for the next episode, because we'll head down past Mount Terrible Hut and the fire tower, and we'll head down to Paletti's and then down into the Golden Valley. But the highlight of the next video will be going up Holy Land's track, which is another one that's quite steep in the area. I was definitely blessed with the weather on this trip. The first day was just full sun. The second day was mostly sun and got a little bit overcast in some spots. And the third day was a bit on and off, but it was mostly sun as well, so you can't really complain with that. I thought a storm was coming in there at one stage down near Lacola, because it was getting really, really blowy. You'll see in some of the other videos that the drone done a really good job of flying in some of these really high winds up here, and some of the thermals I had it flying off the side of the cliffs and getting stuff in the thermals, and it picked it up quite well. And here we are at the gate, and this is the end of the first video, and hopefully I'll see you back for the next one, because we're really going to be testing the Discovery out on the skinnies, that's for sure.